we respond to when we hear sustained talk and or discord. So when we hear the downside or the not so promising side of people talking about their ideas towards change. So as Diane already wrote into the chat box, please do mute your line if you aren't talking. But having said that, really want to emphasize that we hope to make these webinars interactive, and it can be a challenging format for that, but I will ask and invite your participation. So definitely, the idea here is to think through what we've already heard or learned from the workshop. We'll review the concepts about sustained talk and discord, have some discussion about that, and then really want to spend some time practicing. The cool thing about practicing, having an environment where our patients aren't in the room, is that it doesn't matter. We can goof up, we can try some new things out that might feel awkward, so it's a great time to practice. And if there's time, and if somebody has a specific case after we do some practice, we'll definitely be interested in inviting that. So yeah, this isn't a presentation, it's really meant to be a conversation amongst the 18 of us. So please be prepared to be involved. So let's step back before we really jump into focusing on the sustained talk and discord. Let's step back, and you might remember from the workshops or from things you've read that there's these three aspects of motivational interviewing. We talk about the spirit, we talk about the skills, and then we talk about the 4 core processes. And so we're going to just use the 4 core processes to kind of do that bird's eye view review before we dig in today. So I want to start out with a question. How would you define the 4 core processes? What would be your 1 or 2? Let's have a couple folks maybe. What would you describe the 4 core processes to be? So like I said, we have the spirit, we have the skills, and then there's these 4 core processes. Any ideas? And there's no cheating, or there's no possibility of cheating. So if you have your workbook from the workshop, pull it out. And what do you think of, or what comes to mind when you hear the 4 processes of MI?
Listening.
I hear someone almost. I can almost hear someone.
Engaging.
Okay, so that's the first one. Right. I guess maybe even a step back from that. Why do we even talk about the 4 processes? Why are they helpful? This is actually the newest part. So when Bill Miller and Steve Rollnick first started talking about MI back in the 80s and 90s, they really talked about the spirit and the skills. So this is the newest kind of way of thinking, or something that they've come up with in this very last edition of the motivational interviewing, so to speak, textbook. So the 4 core processes relate to the order, kind of the order of what we do first, what we do next, the sequence of what we're trying to accomplish in a conversation that is based on motivational interviewing. So we have this diagram here. The diagram has a stair-step sequence to it. So like someone already said, the first part is engaging. So again, and I know I'm just throwing out a question out there, but what what is your sense of what we're trying to accomplish with the process of engaging? What are we first, this is the first one, when we first sit down with someone, what are we trying to, what's the purpose of that process?
To form a relationship with them.
Exactly. Actually, exactly. So the first thing, if we're going to have a successful helping support conversation, there needs to be a relationship. Great. So the engaging process is our first task at hand. And then focusing in relationship to motivational interviewing, what are we trying to do in that step? What are we wanting to accomplishing by focusing?
No, essentially by focusing,
when you build a rapport with somebody, you're able to open up avenues to having other and maybe deeper discussions.
Well, yeah, definitely once we have that relationship established, and it's not, you know, and this is another aspect of this diagram, it's not like it's a one-time deal with engaging. The part of this diagram is trying to depict that engagement has to stay, we have to stay conscious of that and engaging throughout the conversation. But you're right, once we have that engagement, we can proceed to important topics with them. So that's part of it. There's an additional part of this aspect of focusing, and I'm curious, there was somebody else that was chiming in, so wondering if you
essentially, you know, once you've engaged them and you're able to have that conversation, focusing is about kind of getting rid of the unnecessary parts of the conversation, if you like, and getting them to focus on the issue that you want to discuss, because, you know, there will always be distractions or other things that might sidetrack you. The trick is getting the person to focus on what's important, or rather what you want to talk with them about, so that you can get to the next step.
Yeah, so at this point, what we're trying to do is really hone down to what specifically are we going to talk about. And I might add that it's not completely that there might be 10 things, or there might be 3 things that are really important for this person. They might even voice 3 or 4 things that they would like to work on with their health, but we can't do everything at once. And so the process of focusing is, okay, which one are we going to really take time to hone in on today, in order that we can then proceed to the next step of evoking. So in MI, it's really impossible to start evoking motivation, which is that third stair step, unless we have a concrete focus. Are we going to be talking about quitting smoking? Are we going to be talking about managing their blood sugars? Are we going to be talking about the stress that they're experiencing? What is the focus going to be regarding building some motivation around? Okay, so we have those first 3 steps, and it is that sequence of first establishing a relationship, then saying, hey, which behavior area are we going to focus on, and then we can get to the work of evoking motivation, which is what motivational interviewing is all about. But first, we have to have those preceding steps of a relationship and a focus. So that brings us to today's topic. We know we want to evoke motivation, but here we are with a situation of saying sometimes we don't exactly hear a lot of motivation, or what we call change talk. So what are we going to do when we hear these other 2 types of language from the client? So you might recall also from the workshop that in the research that they have done, they've determined that there's 3 types of language that a client or a patient might say regarding change. So one we call change talk, one we call sustained talk, and the other one is discord. And this slide is simply trying to depict the difference between sustained talk, or pro-status quo language, where a person is kind of maybe weighing the options. Yes, I want to change. No, I don't want to change. But the sustained talk is the, no, I don't really want to change, versus discord, where they kind of come at us with maybe some boxing gloves on. And it's not so much about they're talking about the change as much as they're saying, I don't so much like talking with you. I don't want to be here. I don't like the fact that you're trying to tell me what to do. So that's that kind of a quick difference between sustained talk and discord. Here, I'm going to ask you to kind of read through the definition, or more of a verbal explanation of the difference between sustained talk and discord. So sustained talk really is that one side of ambivalence towards not making any changes. Resistance or discord is more of a battle between, this person doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to be working on their health with me. So I'm curious at this point, does this feel like a clear differentiation between what you hear sometimes from the patients you work with?
This is Kathy. I would say yes, and that sometimes they bounce around even within themselves of us not even saying anything of back and forth with this, depending on the phone call and depending on where they're at with where things are at and how long we've worked with them.
Yeah.
So I would say it's really variable.
So you hear a mixture.
Yes.
It's not pure one or another, and that's a really good point. Even though we can distinguish, or we can, in research, we can categorize these different things, it doesn't mean it comes across as, all of one or all of another within even a paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a comment within the chat there regarding the difference between discord and resistance, and I'm really glad that you asked that, Janice. There is a difference, and years ago, I guess the history behind this is that resistance has been the term that was frequently used to just describe whether a person was either angry to be talking with me about change, or might simply say, like, I just don't know where I would fit, cooking in. So more of just a sustained talk. The history is that then recently, Bill Miller and Steve Rolnick came to, to really consider this and to realize that resistance has been kind of a label that we've put on people. This person we can label as resistant because they don't want to talk. They don't want to show up to their appointments, or they don't want to take a medication. Whereas what we see all the time, and hopefully you saw this in the workshops when you were there, is that as a practitioner, depending on what I do, I can actually evoke more resistance, or I can evoke more change talk, or what I do can really impact the kind of language that we get from the clients. So it's now, the thinking has shifted to, hey, let's not call this person that's not wanting to talk with me a certain label like resistance. Let's say that instead there's something not going well with the relationship. There's discord. So we've moved from the idea of calling the person something to just a description of what's happening in the relationship. Knowing that, what I do has a big impact on how this person is going to continue talking. So I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Also, Diane is helping me with that. Let me know if that brings up any thoughts about that, that shift from using the word resistant to the word discord. And so I actually do want to update this slide. this is evidence of not always updating terminology within slides. Great. So I thought we might move into some examples. So like I said, there's these 3 different kinds of languages that we might hear: change talk, sustained talk, or discourse. So here we have an example. I'd like to lose weight, but where would I fit exercise in? So this is a combination, or you see ambivalence here. So this is a combination of change talk, I'd like to lose weight, and then sustained talk, but where would I fit it in? So it's the 2 sides of the battle going on in somebody's head. Here's another example. I'm afraid I might fall. Sure, I'd like to get up and around more, but it really hurts. So I want to ask, what kind of language are you hearing there? What mixture?
I'd like to see something that benefits my life, but it's going to be difficult to fit that in, or in the second example, I might be taking a risk by doing so.
Yeah, you're right. So absolutely, we have a combination of change talk and sustained talk again. I'm afraid I might fall. That's a reason not to do anything differently than what I'm doing. And then I'd like to get up and around more. That's towards change. That's towards maybe taking a different action. And then it ends with, but it really hurts. So back and forth. Like somebody already said, there's often a mixture. So here is another example. I know I'm killing myself every time I light up, but this just isn't a good time to quit. Where specifically, what do you hear there that we would call change talk?
The knowledge that smoking is bad.
Yeah, I know I'm killing myself every time I light up. That's the change talk. Great. And then what's the sustained talk?
Well, the fact that there might be a good time to quit.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
so you're seeing,
I'm just flipping. Gosh, they've thought about there might be a good time.
Okay. Great. So that's really taking. I like that positive spin that you're considering there. That there may be a good time there.
I like that too. That's the kind of nuance that I want to try to pick up or be better about picking up.
Great. So we'll go to one more example here. It just slips my mind a lot, even though I know I'm supposed to take my meds every morning. So on this one, what is the sustained talk? What would you say the part of this statement is that doesn't sound like the person really is moving towards change?
I'm just going to admit the fact that I can't remember.
Yeah, just kind of the statement of, it's just the way it is. It slips my mind. Yeah. So this is just a few examples of this mixture that we get from folks. And if we were going to, if our webinar today was focused on what do I do in order to increase and augment some of these change talk, we would then work on, okay, making sure that our ears are really hearing those possibilities, and what then can I do to respond to elicit even more change talk. This webinar, however, as you know, is focused on what do we do in terms of that sustained talk. What do we do? And I have some examples here now that are a lot more, I guess a lot more just full-on sustained talk. And this happens, sometimes we have the mixture like that previous slide, but sometimes it's more fully sustained talk. So I'm actually going to invite someone, anybody, to read this example for us.
With a family and dealing with how my kids want to eat and how my husband wants to eat, I just can't see fixing a third kind of meal for myself. And exercise, where would I fit that in? There are
only 24 hours in a day.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so in this statement, is there any, I don't see any reasons or hope, or it sounds like just despair. It just sounds like this person is not seeing any possibilities. Have a second one here. Could someone read this one?
This just isn't a good time to quit smoking. Things have gotten busier at work with layoffs, plus with my wife not working since we've had the baby. Money is tight, so I really need to have to stay on top of doing well with this job, emphasis added.
Exactly. Thank you. So another example of just full-on kind of, it's just not going to work. These both are situations where many people might say, well, this person just isn't ready. Why don't you come back when you are? Come back when you see the possibility of a better chance of making a change. But these are actually, in motivational interviewing, this is like the perfect place to utilize the skills, the spirit of motivational interviewing. So let's move to, before we get onto some how are we going to respond, let's see what a Discord example would look like. And could I have, and I want to say thank you so much for everybody so far voicing and just stepping into this fun webinar format. So could I have a Jim and a Terry, two people that would take on the roles of Jim and Terry here?
I can be Terry.
Sure, great.
Jim
Who would
here.
like to be Jim?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I sit out here in front for about an hour before I come in, and I was about that close to just cranking that pickup up, and heading back home. I'll let you know I'm not real happy about being here. I hope you understand that.
I'm hearing you loud and clear that being here is not something that is really a high priority for you.
No. And I'm looking at you, and you've got blonde hair. I haven't had a lot of luck with blonde hair the last couple of weeks.
Is that right? Well, tell me a little bit more about that.
Thank you. So, wow, do you see the difference between what sustained talk sounds like and what Discord sounds like? I mean, Jim is here. He definitely has his boxing gloves on, and he is going at it. It's not just a matter of the difficulty of change. It's like, I don't want to be here. I don't like you. Everybody's against me, and let me out of here. So hopefully that's a clear difference between what Discord sounds like and what sustained talk sounds like. So far, any questions, as we lay the groundwork here for what we're talking about, any questions from any of the participants here? Okay. We will move on then to, this is a very cool quote. In arguing, this is from the most recent book, Motivational Interviewing, by Steve Miller, Steve Rolnick, and Bill Miller. In arguing for the status quo or expressing discord, the client is probably rehearsing a script that has been played out many times before. There's an expected role for you to play, one that has been acted out by others in the past. Your lines are predictable. If you speak the same lines as others have done, the script will come out to the same conclusion. But you can rewrite your own role. That's what we're aiming for here, is how to respond in a way that is actually different, so that the person that we're working with, the person that we're actually trying to support, sees their own situation differently. So we call it resisting the writing reflex. So any of those statements, those examples that I gave you, the person talking about, hey, I know I'm killing myself every time I light up, but it's just not the right time to quit. what do you recall? Hopefully this idea, this concept of the writing reflex stuck from when you all were at the workshop. What do we mean by the writing reflex?
It's sort of correcting their thought process and telling them anyways what you know they already know if you were to just remain calm. I mean, to go off on, you know, there's never going to be a right time to quit smoking. You realize that, right? You know, or to, you know, come off with unvalidating them and getting right to the point for what you're really trying to accomplish without really being in relationship and communicating with them.
Exactly. Yeah, so the writing reflex is going, like you said, it's going to be telling them something they already know, but it comes from this place of us trying to correct them, trying to get them back on the right path. So here are just some initial ideas, more conceptual ideas on what we might do to resist that writing reflex that really come from motivational interviewing and this approach. So one is supporting autonomy, reminding the patient and myself that I'm not responsible. I actually cannot make a change for this other person. What would a statement be? What kind of a statement might I make that would communicate to a patient this idea of supporting autonomy? Can you think of one?
Validating their struggle?
Right. It could be a simple statement of, yes, it is really difficult to quit smoking. Maybe, does anybody else have another idea? I'm curious.
Maybe inquire about prior success times.
Okay, that would certainly invite the conversation, invite hearing what kind of experience and kind of expertise they have in trying to approach the situation.
You know, it makes sense that you're under a lot of stress right now, so it's not a good time to quit. Tell me about what would be a perfect time to quit.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be coming, kind of, we might call that coming alongside with them and validating their current situation, their current sentiment. The thing I might throw out there in terms of a more direct supporting of autonomy would be a statement of, and you'll see some examples in the coming slides, a really direct statement of yes, the decision to quit smoking really is yours to make. It isn't something that I can do for you. It isn't something that we here at the clinic can force on you. That is a decision that only you will know when it's the right time to try to do that. So a very direct, and it may, when you hear it, sometimes it can say, oh, well, that seems so obvious, but somehow that statement of it is your decision to make can help me not feel the weight of the world in terms of trying to change them, but also can help the person realize that they're not going to have to even think of picking up the boxing gloves and fight me back. Okay, so let's move on.
Kathy. This is Kathy. I just had a comment. You know, I've also heard people say you're really in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
You know, and I just, I'm very visual, so I just like that.
That's a great metaphor. Absolutely. A really good metaphor for our culture, where driving is such a, it's a message of our being in charge. So then we have creating a non-judgmental conversational context. So again, these are just kind of global ideas for resisting that writing reflex, creating a non-judgmental conversation. And motivational interviewing gives us those OARS skills, open questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries that can help with that non-judgment kind of conversation. And then from the spirit of motivational interviewing, we have that drawing on compassion and also that believing in the patient, being the expert on their own life, really that they will know what the timing needs to be for them, what resources they might need, what resources they already have. Okay, we will move on then to some more specific ideas on, first of all, responding to Discord when they're coming at us with those boxing gloves. As I'm flipping these up here, I'm going to ask you to consider what, we all experience this. We all experience clients who are upset with us or the system. What do you see up here that you already feel like you're using? And the second question would be, which of these ideas do you think could be useful for you? And then feel free to share.
This is Kathy. I think one of the things that I try to do is come from a place of compassion and, gosh, that sounds really frustrating, or man, that does sound really overwhelming, or, you know, it seems pretty normal that you would feel that way. So that's kind of my initial thing. After that is where I get stuck. So, you know, as far as, I mean, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, we usually come around about to the plan and what looks good and what, you know, but, you know, how sometimes it ends up is, gosh, it sounds like, you know, with things going on right now, it's not that you're, you know, not wanting to do this, but you would really like to think about this more and, you know, would like, you know, for a call back, and what would that look like for you, and what are you thinking? And I mean, I try to continue to give them a lot of choices in that.
Great. Okay, so it sounds like maybe you're finding some reflections to be useful to start with. You know, you were saying how you found it pretty easy to say, hey, this does sound like a really difficult time for you. And what you're saying also is that you get around to having them vocalize what they might do, even if it's a small step. But you're also wishing for a bit, maybe some more ideas on how to proceed to something a bit more substantial.
Yes, agree.
Okay. Kathy, I'm wondering if when you look at the reframe or the shifting of the focus, do either of those give you any, I guess, some new ideas?
Yes, they just don't feel natural. So again, it's just a matter of having the tool in front of me and being able to, you know, the ideas in front of me and being able, so it feels more authentic when I'm talking with them.
Right, absolutely.
You know.
Right. Well, and I am, even for our own practice today, in a few minutes we will do some practice, and so I'm going to encourage all of you to write down these basic ideas, any ones that you might think you want to try during the practice. You know, you might write down reframe or shift the focus, or the supporting the autonomy, simple reflection. Write these things down so that you have kind of a menu of options of what you might try during the practice. So I think the reframe the reframe and the shift the focus are, all of these are powerful, but the reframe is so useful in having something positive out, voiced into the room when there's so much negativity in the room. So if somebody's really negative and just disgusted having to be there, there's all this negative talk coming from them. If we can find something to say that is actually a positive about what they have done or what they have chosen, that can be a huge shift. And then the shifting of the focus really is our testing the waters to see, will this person be able to, for a few minutes, can I invite them? Will they follow my lead if I ask them to, so to speak, stop being focused on the fact that they don't want to be here with me and that the system is against them, etc. So that shift the focus that is not going to happen without our leadership. That is not going to happen without our taking kind of a bold step and saying, okay, I acknowledge that this is not what you want to do right now or where you want to be, but since we're here, I'm wondering what we can do together. So inviting someone to dance in a pretty challenging situation, but it can invite them to, it's a communication to them that, hey, I do want to dance with you. I really want to work with you. And that itself is a pretty positive thing for a person to experience if they're coming at us with boxing gloves. Okay, so this is kind of the menu of options for how you might respond to discord. It's not necessarily an exhaustive list, but there's 5 ideas. Let's look at how we might respond to when there's just a full paragraph, seemingly unending sustained thought. You'll see reflection. These are our go-to skills. We see reframe again. So in the midst of a bunch of, yeah, there's so many reasons why I can't do any changing in my life right now, some sort of positive spin. And then this third one, a full, just an invitation to say, well, let's talk about why it's not a good idea for you to change. So what is working for you with how things currently are? Fill in the blank. So again, this is a menu of options. Please write down what you think you might want to try as we go into our practice here in a minute. And then providing clinical information in an MI-adherent way. So here we know we need to communicate some facts, and this is a very neutral way of doing it. Providing the information and then following it up with, what do you think? What do you make of this? What do you want to do with this information? Handing back the controls to them. All right, and then the 5th one here, again, you'll see the supporting autonomy is such a useful tool in working with people because it really is their decision. And if we can kindly state, hey, it is in your hands, you are in the driver's seat, if we can say that in a way that is kind and compassionate, it can also invite people to realize that it really does fall on their shoulders. Okay, so let's practice. Here are just a bunch of different topics, different statements a client might say, and my thought here is that we'll do one together, and then I'll invite you to search for one that you want to work on, and you'll work on it individually and write something out, and then we'll come back and I'll ask for people to share what they've come up with on whichever one they chose. So the idea is here, let's just take the first one. I thought red wine was supposed to be good for your heart. That's why I drink it every night. So first, with whatever statement, I'd ask you to first identify, is this sustained talk or is it discord? So what do you think? Is this discord or is this change talk?
I would say sustained talk.
Sustained talk, yeah. It doesn't feel like this person yelling at me and trying to fight me. They're talking about the topic of alcohol, why they might want to, why they do it, why they like doing it. So it's sustained talk. Think back or look back at your notes for one of those different ways of responding to sustained talk and write out, think up something you might say that is you think could be a good response to that would help the conversation move forward. So I'll just give, we'll just take 30 seconds or so here. Think up something, write out something. I'll go back in the slides in case people want to review. Okay, so what are some things that you've come up with in response to, I thought red wine was supposed to be good for your heart. That's why I drink it every night.
It sounds like you want to do what's best for your health, but you might have received mixed messages.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really nice way of saying something positive. Hey, there's a little bit of a reframe in what you're saying, that hey, you're trying to do something good for yourself, and maybe you've gotten some mixed messages. Great. What's another option that somebody came up with?
You know, I think I've read something about that too. It said that people should drink one glass of red wine, and that's supposed to help out with the health. Now, granted, it's going to be up to you at the end of the day how big that glass is, but you got to remember, I hear alcohol can be a little bit addictive. So, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, it's your choice as far as how much you want to drink. But it's, one glass is supposed to be about the amount that's healthy for you.
Okay, so you're doing a combination there of giving some information and trying to say that it is up to them. The one, one tweak I might, if I can offer this, would be to, and I think you did it the second time maybe, and not the first time. The first time it sounded more like this information was coming from you as a person. And I think the second time you said it was more neutral. Sometimes that neutrality of expressing it as a research finding or the current recommendations are any way to de-emphasize ourselves as the person telling them what to do. That might be really useful. What do you make of that?
I regret that there was too much going on around me in the office at the moment, so I sort of missed the first half of what you said. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I was saying that a lot of times if we come with information in a format of where we de-emphasize ourselves and make it more of a, this is the current recommendation, or this is the research findings, these are the current research findings, that can help people take it in more. I think that the first time you said you had your recommendation, it sounded more like it came from you, versus I think the second time you said it was more of that kind of general recommendation. So that was my comment. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, that makes sense what you said, essentially, because with the first one, by personalizing it like that, it kind of makes it sound like it's coming from me to them, and they might take it as an attack. Whereas if you just dispersonalize it, or depersonalize it, and just say, this is the raw data, take it as you will, that gives them the wiggle room to not feel like they're under attack, but they'll still get the message. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to maintain, that partnership at all costs. Really to maintain, hey, I'm working with you, and I'm not trying to be above you, looking down at you. Yeah. Is there one other person that would like to share what they came up with?
I was kind of on the same line as Ben, and what I was thinking was more of, wow, so you've heard that red wine is supposed to be good for your heart. What is it that you have learned?
Okay. Yeah. Kind of an evoking of what is it that you know. Great. Mm-hmm. Inviting them to be in conversation and communicating to them that you value what they know, what they've heard. Great. Okay, so I would invite then, look at the rest of this list, pick one that just seems like it fits your situation, one that calls to you. And again, identify whether it's more that you're working with Discord or you're working with Sustain Talk, and then write out a response that you think would help continue the conversation, continue engagement with this person in talking about the topic. We'll take another minute here to work in silence. All right. I'm curious now. I'm actually going to see, I have some of the names of the different clinics that are represented. I'm curious if anybody from either the Rogue Clinic or OHSU might share which statement they worked on and how they formed a response. Nope.
Well, to fill the silence here, I think I'm going to grab the bull by the horns or the dog by the tail or whatever it is and say that I've tried all those things. None of them work. Don't you get it? After which I would reply to that unfortunate person, I can really understand your frustration. You've got some really legitimate concerns about these things you've tried. So that said, talk to me more about what it is that didn't work for you there. And part of my job is working on quality improvement so I can connect you with something that will work. And let's see what we can change so that it's going to work for you.
So this is Verna. I guess I got disconnected somehow, and I just came back in, and I heard part of...
Oh, you missed my wonderful dialogue. I'm sorry. It was a one-time only show. No soup for you.
So this is Richard?
No, this is Ben. I'm Richard's protege in Medford.
Oh, okay. So Ben,
I was addressing the statement of the person who said, I've tried all that stuff. I just want some pain pills. Don't you get it? Well, maybe not the pain pills part, but that's frequently inserted in there.
right.
And essentially my approach there was to, try and have them isolate what it was that isn't working for them. It sounds like they're just writing off these programs carte blanche. If I can drill down a bit and have them identify what it is that isn't working for them, then I can direct them to something in which those elements aren't necessarily present or reframe it for them.
Okay. Can you read what you said? Was there a specific statement that you wrote out?
I was winging it, but I'll go for it again. I can understand your frustration. That said, let's figure out what it is about these things that you've tried that didn't work for you, and you talk to me about that, and then we'll figure out what we can do to, well, frankly, change these things. Because if it's not working for you, it's not a good program. Am I right? So, talk to me about this pain management class you went to. What was it that didn't work?
Okay, so yeah, you're doing that shifting focus part where you acknowledge the current situation, how they feel about it, and then you
they're
say,
angry,
okay,
and I'm going to give them someone who isn't me to be angry about and become their ally, and then we can take it back.
Right. Right. So that acknowledgement of their current frustration, their current sentiment, their current feelings, and then, hey, can we work together? An invitation to dance. Great. Thanks, Ben. Somebody else? I think we have a couple minutes left here. Would somebody else want to share?
Sure. This is, go ahead, Jen. Sorry. I did the why do I have to be here? I know things aren't perfect, but I'm doing better. My response would be, wow, it sounds like you've made some changes. I'd really like to hear about how those changes are for you.
Great. Yeah, that's such a nice way of inviting them to talk about their success, talk about what they feel is going well. Nice. I think we actually have time for another one. Does somebody else want to
this is Heidi. I don't think the meds help all that much, and I really don't like how they made me feel. And my response to them would be, have you contacted your primary care physician to advise of how the meds are making you feel, and what was it, or how, did they make you feel? Did you try taking them with food? What other ways could you have possibly taken them differently?
Okay. So you encourage them to contact their primary, and then you were asking them to talk a bit more about what happened and how it happened. So I would like to throw out the suggestion that maybe prior to that, it might be useful. And I mean, this is all very much, when we're in the moment, we know how the relationship with the patient is, how they responding to us in the moment. If things feel a little tentative, or if it feels like they're feeling, kind of down about this, or that they're frustrated, it might be useful to begin with some sort of statement that acknowledges that. So, wow, you made the effort to try these meds out, and it must be a little annoying or disappointing that it didn't seem like it worked. And then that might help bridge the gap to wondering if we can talk more about how you took them, how maybe the schedule or what you took them with, and I'm also wondering if you might want to contact your physician. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's great.
And again, you in the moment will see how the relationship is going, see how the engagement is going, and you can decide whether that might be helpful, or if you can go right to kind of the fixing the problem part. Well, we are at 11:59. I want to thank everybody for participating. I know sometimes it's a funny format. We feel like we might talk over each other, but thanks so much for chiming in. I would encourage you to please time. Ariel Singer is the person that you can contact with any questions, concerns. We really do want to hear from you. If you feel you want to discuss this particular topic further, or any other, definitely want us to support you as you go forward. And Diane, I don't know if you want to finish up with any specific words to the group.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And please know that I will be sharing slides as well as the recording of the webinar by the middle of next week. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Verna.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.